Hey guys, it's Spacey Sims, and we are back with Muller Paradigm Paradox, continuing Tokyo's route. So, that night we received word of a vector sighting, so the Blooms were summoned to the command center. Looks like I'm the first one here today. I knew the others would arrive soon, so I watched the entrance as I waited. Cowardy came in first. Huh, what's with that awkward look? Did I do something to make her mad? I tried to think back, but nothing came to mind. I've done well on the missions recently, and there hasn't been any other weirdness between us. Maybe I did something without even realizing it. If I keep thinking about this, it'll affect my performance during the mission again. The other members had trickled into the command center by this point, so I focused my attention on the mission. Hold on. Sorry. Today's mission was running smoothly so far. I'm not as scared as before, even when a vector's right in front of me. I was only partly successful at keeping Lizzie out of my thoughts, but I felt my mindset had shifted. Cast Augment, concentrate on support. I really have no idea. Cast Augment. Okay. I'm like, I don't know, either one could be fine. Maybe I can try using Augment again, given how I'm feeling. I made my way over to Cowardy and Haruka on the front lines and called out to them. Cowardy! Haruka! Are you sure you're okay being that close to a vector? Haruka expressed immediate concern, but I nodded to reassure her. I'm fine. I'm gonna cast Augment if you want to give me your hands. Thanks. I carefully watched the vector's movements as I grasped both their hands and quickly cast Augment. Did it work? Yeah, I feel it. You've really given it your all this time around. So let's say we end it. Yeah! We made quick work of the rest of the vectors without issue. That's the final one. Cowardy went after the vector Sena indicated. After she defeated it, we didn't sense any more in the vicinity. Brilliant, everyone. I do believe that it's our fastest time in recent memory. Sena smiled at all of us. We breathed a sigh of relief and started commending each other's performance. You got that right. Haruka, your attacks are always powerful, but your aim's getting better and better. It was easier because you all corralled the vectors into one spot. You did great, too. Cowardy nodded to me, and my heart overflowed with joy as I thought about what happened today. Thanks. I'm going to keep on giving it my all. I gave her a broad smile, and she returned one in kind. I knew it'd be nice to see you smile more. Oh, yeah? What's this strange feeling? Something about Cowardy's face seemed off, but then she started as if she'd realized she made some kind of mistake. Cowardy, is something wrong? No, nothing. It didn't seem like nothing, but Cowardy quickly turned away and hurried off. It's kind of like then she's starting to realize that, like, oh shit, I'm saying things that I say as my other self, you know. I just stayed where I was, staring after her. She said she knew it'd be nice to see me smile more. I think someone else said something like that to me recently. The whole exchange bothered me a bit, but I couldn't remember anything conclusive. After finishing the mission, I returned to my dorm and started up my computer to message Uncle Yashima as usual. What should I write today? Can't talk about the mission, but there must be something else. I went to thank Tokyo earlier, and then an image of Tokyo's face inching closer to mine flashed through my mind, bringing a blush to my cheeks. I mean, I would blush too. The man's beautiful. Oh, we're flashing back to this CG. Okay. Since when? Oh, son of a bitch. Hold on. Stupid phone. Yeah, it's a spam call. Bye, fuckers. Go away, spam calls. Anyway. Why did he do that? He said my emotions were obvious, but how obvious are we talking here? Sorry, bird. I thought over the conversation we had just had prior, but I didn't say anything strange. Tokyo was the one acting all weird. It happened when we were talking about the nutrition bars. I remember that Cowardy... Wait. Tokyo and Cowardy... Thinking about those two together made me realize something. Don't buy my headset. Cowardy said she made the nutrition bars herself, didn't she? Would Cowardy give her homemade bars to someone else? Even if she did, I can only imagine she'd give them to a close friend. that I've never seen those two interact at all. Speaking of, when I wrote to Uncle Yashima the other day, I was thinking about Tokio. I've been wondering how he'd known that I hadn't been smiling much. See, now she's put the pieces together. Well, here's the thing. Now she's getting, wait, Kaori wouldn't have, instead of like going, the homemade bars. So at the time she was thinking like, oh, they're just like a trendy nutrition bar. And then now she's like, wait, they're homemade. Two people couldn't make the same thing. It's like, yes, they could. I thought that's what you were thinking. Like, oh, two people make the same recipe. Well, yeah. Like, you think Lizzie's cookies are all just, nobody else has ever made the same type of cookies? Maybe she makes different kinds. But you know what I mean? Like, and everyone's are slightly different, but it's not like, well, I've made peanut butter cookies before, so nobody else in the world could ever make peanut butter cookies. You know what I mean? So, like, but I mean, I get, like, she's putting the pieces together, like, because she doesn't hang around with anybody else, but still. It's kind of weird for her to go, like, wait, they both have the same nutrition bars that they made. Yeah, and I'm sure you can find recipes online. Like, it'd be like somebody else makes cookies and you're, like, assuming, Lizzie, are you in there? Like, somebody else is allowed to bake. I thought that's why she was like, well, whatever, it must be a trend. Like, anyway. The smiling thing, though, and then today, Kaori told me she knew it'd been nice to see me. She told me she knew it'd be nice to see me smile more. Something bothered me about her phrasing, that she knew. Before that attack happened, I think I smiled pretty often when I was with the Blooms. But if that's what she was referring to, isn't it weird for her to say she knew, since she'd already seen me? I thought carefully about what Tokio and Kaori had said, and had a sneaking suspicion that there was something connecting them. No, it can't be, but it seemed impossible, but it's also the only explanation. If that's what I suspect, it'll be faster to just ask. I can have a good laugh over it if it turns out I'm wrong. I'll talk to Tokio tomorrow. Well, you're going to go to him and be like, are you Kaori? And he's going to be like, who? What? What? Wouldn't it be easier to ask Kaori because she's the one that transforms? And if Tokio and Kaori weren't the same person, you're now asking someone, do you magically transform into this magical girl? And he'd be like, what? Who? Huh? And he'd be all confused, and then you're giving away secrets. Wrong person to confront. I mean, I get why they're doing it, but, like, logically, it would be the wrong person to confront. The next day during lunch, I steeled my resolve and left the classroom. But we know she's right, so it doesn't matter. All right, let's see what Tokio has to say. I have my hand sitting on my lap. And, like, it's kind of angled, and the bird's kind of, like, half sitting on it. And it's just so funny feeling his weight on my hand. Because he's, like, mostly on my hand while he's, for some reason, licking my palm. Which is just very bizarre. My palm must be salty. But, like, it's just the weirdest thing just to feel, like, bird weight on your hand. Like, I feel his weight on my chest and everything, but it's just weird on my hand because, like, I don't normally, like, he'll snuggle into my palm, but he doesn't sit on it. So, like, him just sitting, I don't know why, it's just bizarre. You fat bird. No, I tease you. You're not fat boy. No, you're a very healthy bird. But it is funny feeling your weight against my palm, because you normally don't sit on my hand like this. So feeling your, like, couple ounce weight on my hand is just, it's a teeny tiny little weighted blanket. You know what I mean? It's probably the same thing when your cat lays on your chest or something, or in your lap. You're like, oh, it's like a weighted blanket. You know what I mean? Like, okay, is it just me? Like, sometimes when you're just laying there, sometimes you're like, I want the heavy weight of the blankets on you. Not too much. And, like, not pressing on your toes or anything like that. Because, like, no, that's weird. Like, but, like, sometimes you just want, like, even when you're, like, comfortable, you're like, no, I need the extra, like, having a blanket on you is not enough. So then you have to, like, put a pillow on your lap. Because then you get that little extra, that weight. Or, like, that's why I don't mind corsets and everything. I don't mind the compression. Like, it's like sometimes I want that compression just, like, squishing in my fat. So, like, I guess that's why weighted blankets are nice. Like, I mean, obviously that's why weighted blankets are a thing. But, like, right now, just this little bit of weight in my hand, it's just something soothing about it. I don't know. Is that what it feels like when your cat or dog lays on you? You know, not when they're so fat you can't breathe. But you know what I mean? When they're in your lap, you're like, yeah, just this weight. I don't know. Anyway. All right, let's see what Tokio has to say. Tokio. He wasn't in class, so that means lab. He's not here. Why is she going everywhere but his lab? I looked for Tokio everywhere, but I couldn't find him. I sighed when I realized I'd been subconsciously putting off checking the most likely place he'd be. Ah, okay. I guess I'm scared to find out, but I have to get rid of this unsettling feeling, so I just need to do it. Yep, there he is. I peeked inside the small room and saw Tokio sitting on the sofa. He wasn't asleep this time. Rather, he looked like he was daydreaming. I called out to him as I entered the room. Tokio! Oh, you're here. It sounded like he was expecting me from the way he said that, so I went ahead and asked my question. There's something I want to ask you. Sure, go for it. Are you Kaori? Are you Kaori's brother? Oh my god. I feel like are you Kaori is the right question. Although I think it's interesting that brother is the option. Save file 2. And actually, yeah, okay. In 82. Haha, look at that. Okay, so... Oh no, it's Aryu Kaori's brother! We're not supposed to ask him yet! Oh, so maybe she doesn't suspect, she just thinks that they're, like, siblings. Which makes sense, they both have the same hair and eye color, so I could see where you'd get that, and not assuming he's transforming. Interesting! Okay. Tokio, are you Kaori's brother? I couldn't believe the conclusion I'd come to, so I attempted to avoid it entirely. Tokio stared blankly at me. Okay, so she's like, I think he is her, but then she's like, you know what, I'm just gonna say brother, and see what happens.
You came all this way to ask something as ridiculous as that. You're not just honest, you got quite an imagination.
Wait. I wanted to ask something else, but I didn't have the confidence.
Well, then go on. What is it?
I couldn't avoid it any longer, so I said what I was thinking. It's interesting that... I want to see something. Okay, hold on. I'm going to scroll up and not... So a bad end starts with asking if he's Kaori. Interesting. Okay. I wanted to see what save file 2. I scrolled up fast enough so I couldn't see the other choices that come up. But like interesting. Also, he's got a lot of endings. He's got the most. I feel like because he's got I'm assuming the normal ending, but then there's a lot of bad endings. Happy, normal, bad 3 are like the normal one, but then he seemed like he had quite a few because there was at least 4 save file points that I noticed as I was scrolling up. So, anyway. But I think that's the same as Ayamu. Maybe everybody else? I don't know. I just have to ask, Tokio, are you Kaori?
I am.
For some reason, Tokio was way calmer than I was, even though I was the one who pointed it out.
That's confidential info, so I thought it best not to tell you. But I messed up. I'll admit it since you figured it out.
Messed up? Are you talking about those nutrition bars?
Yeah, and then I referred to our conversation when I was transformed. You noticed when we were talking yesterday, didn't you? I hope we can change that. I knew it'd be nice to see us smile more.
I nodded, as that was the phrase that made me realize what was going on. That's right, but I couldn't be sure until you confirmed it. Actually, I can hardly believe it regardless. So if that's the case, are the other members boys too? Other questions popped up for me as we continued talking, and I decided to ask them straight away.
That's confidential, remember? You won't get that answer from me.
Aw, but we're all part of the Blooms. Why won't you tell me?
Mr. Kuramori didn't tell you, so it's probably best that I don't.
Also, it's not your business unless they want you to know. Yeah, that's true, but I guess I just feel left out. Well, especially because they all know who the others are, and they know who you are, but you don't get to know who they are. It is kind of like, I can kind of understand her point. I feel left out, but I thought I sounded a bit like a petulant child, but Tokio's demeanor softened well.
I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Okay, since you're so curious, I'll tell you about one of them. You probably figure it out anyway. Like a moose like me.
Like you? Mommy is in the Blooms? Huh. So he transforms into a girl too. Though I was surprised it didn't take much thought to know exactly who he meant. Does that mean he's Haruka?
Got it in one.
He acknowledged it so easily that it was all the confirmation I needed. Now that I think about it, Kaori and Haruka talk and act the same way Tokio and Ayamu do when they're together. You two are exactly the same around each other. Well, missing the in there, but okay.
We weren't exactly hiding it. We just talk like we normally do. The other two know about us, and it wasn't necessary to tell you. But I wouldn't keep it a secret if you found out. Besides, I have an idea of why Mr. Kuramori kept it from you. It's not a bad reason or anything.
Oh, really?
You had to deal with a ton of surprising things when you got your powers. Maybe he thought it would be too confusing to taking all that info at once.
I thought about what he said. Back then I didn't even know about the vectors, and I was preoccupied with learning about my powers. If I was told that the girls were actually boys, I probably would have had a heart attack. Yeah, it's a little bit easier to get used to your new friend group if you don't think like, oh, they're dudes. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, here's my new girlfriends. Cool. It's a little slumber party. And then they're like, okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
You didn't have any side effects, so there wasn't any rush to explain it all to you.
I really hope we don't have one where Tokio gets stuck and stays Kaori forever. But, you know, I'll still love him if he does anyway. Wait, so transforming into a girl is a side effect of using your powers? That revelation shocked me, but Tokio just looked exasperated.
Of course. There's no specific reason or benefit for us to turn into women when we use our powers.
That's true.
But I'm glad you showed up when you did.
Huh. Tokio's tone had changed, and when I turned to him, I saw that he looked excited.
I thought all of us had that side effect. That's why you're an extremely interesting case.
Oh, now I'm a lab experiment to this precious boy with his glasses and his little barrettes. His little yellow bobby pins. It's adorable. I love him so much.
Just as our powers are unique to the individual, so too are the side effects. I always thought changing genders was a constant for everyone. The sample size is too small, of course, but it's logical to assume you're the exception to that rule. Considering that, you should be studied more and...
Tokio spoke rapid fire about my situation, but he wasn't looking at me at all. It was the same way he talked when he described the fish tank in the sky. I get that Tokio might be interested in me, but this is... Tokio, there's something I've been wanting to ask you for a while.
What is it?
Tokio was totally calm, which signaled that he didn't sense the unease in my voice. Why did you bring me here the other day? You told Ayumu that it took priority over class, but what did you mean?
What did I mean? If you want to know the reason, it's because Mr. Kuramori, or rather, the commander said so. He chased after me when things got awkward between us. He told me that it would negatively impact the Bloom's mission, so I had to do something about it.
It's so funny because it's like, you're like, oh, look, he cares. And it's like, well, he was forced to care. It's not really on Tokio. You know what I mean? He comes across as kind of aloof and like more into his research than anything else. But Kaori seems to be the one who would actually care. And like, it's very weird. They almost have different personalities. Like, everybody else is kind of similar. You know what I mean? Like, Ayumu is very, like, polite and nice to people. It's a front, obviously. But deep down inside, he's probably actually a nice person. It's just he puts on this front because, like, overprotective with the sister and he's a little crazy. Totally understandable. So, like, as Haruka, he's, like, nice to his cohorts and whatever. Because, hey, they're on a team and they're working, and it has nothing to do with his sister. He got bitchy and snotty with us because we were friends with his sister, and he doesn't think we're good enough, and he's a little crazy. Okay? And then Haruka was acting like a bitch to us because of it. But otherwise, he's just perfectly polite to people, and, like, you know, whatever, and kind of like in work mode, but, like, polite work mode, you know? Totally fine. You know, you can see that, like, yeah, Kamui and Sana are a little... Sana speaks a little more politely and does not use contractions unless she is absolutely fucking up, right? But, like, tries to speak differently, but is still kind of, like, pally to you, like the way Kamui would be. Like, he was like your bro, and then kind of fell in love with you, but you were, like, bros, and you were friends, and he was, like, you know what I mean? He still got, like, the nice thing going on. And Mocha and Mihaya are still, like, they're still nice, but they're nice, and sometimes they'll be like, God, what are you, stupid? Of course we care about you, you dumbass. And then it's also like, I don't care if I die. Like they have similar enough personalities in their forms, but Tokio seems to be the one that's slightly different here because like Kaori always seems like such a leader and Tokio's like, I'm just gonna take a nap and I don't want to be bothered. Can't even be bothered to eat a sandwich. Okay, like research on the brain all the time. But like, and I guess that's kind of similar to Kaori, because Kaori is like, I am the leader, we are going focus on the mission. But actually gives a fuck about the teammates and stuff like that. But I guess as the leader, really, when you're out there, that's kind of part of her responsibility, if you think about it. So it's like, you know, and like, actually, I do think that like she does care. Like, you can see, like, she's kind of friendly to everybody, cares about people, wants to keep things, like, hey, we got to work out our differences and whatever. Like, very much like the mom of the group. And then outside, Tokio's like, yeah, Mr. Kuromori told me to basically be nice to you, and like, whatever. That's like, but I have to believe that you care somewhere deep down, because you're like, you can't be 100% different than Kaori, but like, you come across as like, I did it because I had to. But like, you wouldn't say, see, I knew it'd be nice to see you smile again if you didn't care at all, but it is just kind of weird. Like, you're just gonna need you to fuse your personalities together.
Well, since I'm your senior in the Blooms, I had to approach you. Well, that's what he said, so I was trying to think of the best way to approach things. Our relationship took a turn for the worse after that one incident when you started acting strangely. And it wouldn't be right for me to use hypnosis, for example, and make you forget the situation. So I theorized that if I could help you feel better, it would lead to a solution.
I also love that for someone who sleeps a lot and acts like he gives no fucks about anything, he is like, okay, so I analyzed the situation, and he's like doing logic math in his brain, and it's so amazing. You theorized. But think about it, that's what you do when you're trying to come up with a solution to a problem. You're like, okay, so I could do this, and maybe that would do, and you do, like, maybe it's just me, I would absolutely, you're theorizing the probable, like, solutions to the problem and the outcomes to the different choices you could make. Like, and you're analyzing and doing all that, but you just don't think about it, and you wouldn't, when you were like, well, I kind of just thought about different ways that we could kind of work this out, and I tried to figure out what was best, but you wouldn't be like, I theorized, and then I came up with my hypothesis, and I wrote the thesis down in you're not going to use terms like that when you're speaking to people, so it's like, you theorized. But that's what you do, in essence, right? It just comes across weird when you say it that way. Tokio talked about our situation like he was solving a formula, which made me immensely uncomfortable. I mean, to be fair, when you're talking, you are solving a formula. But there's usually emotion involved in it, and he's just totally logically coming at this. He heard what I said, but he didn't seem to pick up on how I felt. He just kept going. Yeah, I think emotions are a little... Which is funny, because Kaori seems like she absolutely has, like, normal human emotions, and I'm not sure Tokio actually really tunes into those.
Yes, but it was nothing more than a hypothesis. I had to put my theory to the test in order to prove it.
I feel like when he's in this form, he's like, yes, he's obviously got emotions, but it's like, okay, let me think, and like, when you're presented with the problem, it's let me analyze and work on a solution and do the science stuff and the research stuff, because that's the way his mind works. But like, you know, and emotions will come into, like, don't worry about emotions, like, but obviously, like, I just became fascinated with the sky, and it's like, well, that's obviously, it elicited an emotional response from you, and that's why you were so fascinated by it. It's not just purely scientific. But I think it's easier to be like, no emotion with people. But yet you do have them. You're acting like there was, like, no emotion there, but there was some.
I thought about what I should do, and the only thing that came to mind was bringing you here. I actually wasn't all that confident that it would go well, but your honest and straightforward nature made it work. I'm relieved the Blooms' mission won't be affected now.
You're relieved? Because the mission won't be affected? That's really what you think? I managed to choke out the words, though they sounded harsh. It was as if all my feelings came pouring out. Human emotions aren't so simple. I'm not all right at all. Tokio finally ascertained that something was wrong, and he looked at me skeptically. It's actually really funny, because no, you know what? He is kind of a robot. Interesting. And yet, as Kaori, he seems totally like he's got emotions. Like, totally normal emotions, and yet Tokio, robot. Interesting. Because they're really not that different from their Bloom's counterparts. They try to play it up and act a little bit different, but they're still the same person. But it's interesting. Huh.
But you're fighting at the same level you were before. I thought that was a direct result of what I did. Am I wrong? Was the fish tank not effective enough? And the only thing left I could do is...
No, that's not it. What I'm trying to say is that I don't want you to talk about me like that. I don't want you to talk about me like I'm some kind of test subject. I interrupted him rather harshly, so Tokio's reply was filled with irritation.
That wasn't my intention. I was only thinking about the most effective way to help your mental health. People can get hurt if something's negatively impacting the Bloom's mission. I needed to find a solution as soon as possible, so I acted swiftly. I'm sure you knew things couldn't stay that way either. All I did was for your benefit. It's insulting that you're blaming me.
I'm not blaming you for anything. I stopped myself from saying the next few words. I realized what I was feeling, and I was ashamed. What made me happy before was thinking that Tokio was trying to understand my feelings. I thought he'd seen I wasn't doing well and cared enough to do something about it, but now it seems that wasn't true. He was given an order as a member of the Blooms, as Kaori. That's the only reason why he sought me out. In that light, what Tokio did wasn't all that special.
No, Bird! What the fuck?
Hold on. Little fucker just pooped on me. You know better. Okay, sorry. I chucked him downstairs. Now he's going to start screaming, probably, because he wants to be up here. But he doesn't get to be up here if he's going to poop on me when he knows better. And he knows where his poopy spot is. So his punishment is that he has to go downstairs and be by his goddamn self. So I'm probably going to yell and tell him to shut his goddamn mouth in a minute. I was like, he's just chirping down there. It's like flock calling to me, but I'm like, I'm not having it. No, we don't poop on people. You know better. Anyway. Not only that, but he just talked about whether it was effective or not and remained completely oblivious to my feelings. Like, it's literally right around the corner, like his little spot that he goes to. Like, he knows where it is, but he's a jackass and didn't want to go to his spot. So he's not, no, he's going to get punished for that. So now he has to be by himself. I feel like such a fool. I wish you weren't Kaori. The words slipped out unintentionally, so they were harsher than I meant. There was a marked shift, and the atmosphere in the room grew hostile.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just what I said. If I knew I was going to feel this way, it would have been better for you to just leave me alone.
Huh? I don't get what you're saying. You said you were going to keep on giving your all. Don't tell me you changed your mind.
I didn't have the energy to respond to Tokio. All I could do was shake my head.
I'm sorry to say this, but from my view, you're acting like a spoiled child. There's nothing else I can do.
I felt like he was trying to push me away, so I finally snapped back at him. I am not. You wouldn't understand. How would you feel if your best friend turned into a vector? And you had to kill that person with your own hands? There's no way you could understand what that feels like. I shouted with all my anguish, but Tokio just responded quietly.
I can imagine it. And I knew you were having a difficult time. But if you're asking me to understand exactly how you feel, well, maybe that's impossible. I've known for a long time that people who get injured by a vector turn into one. I knew that during the mission, I can defeat a vector even if they used to be an ally. That includes Ayamu. I've run the scenario in my mind many times. That's why I can't understand how you feel. If I'm being honest, I think you're a little naive. Despite all that, I still thought about what would be the best solution for you. What more do you want from me? Tell me, what would you have me do?
The more he talked, the more I couldn't bear to listen to him. I can't take this anymore. I can't stand hearing him be so cold. It's fine. I don't want anything from you. I don't have any expectations for someone that's so cold-hearted.
What's that supposed to mean?
Tokio started to say something else, but after I'd said my piece, I turned my back on him and ran away. So it's still basically a very similar situation, but Ayumu was actually being like an asshole, like a straight up dick, and Tokyo's just a fucking robot. So similar characters in a way, you know what I mean? Like sometimes the asshole is because they're a robot. Oh, I'm sorry. I bolted out into the hallway and ran smack into someone. I looked up and saw that it was Ayumu. I'm fine, but are you okay? Oh, after he said that, I realized I had tears in my eyes, so I wiped them away. I'm okay. He clearly saw that I'm upset, but I can't bring myself to tell him what happened. I vaguely remembered that Ayumu was Haruka, but my desire to flee was overpowering. I slid past Ayumu and took off down the hallway.
And did something happen? It was nothing. Doesn't sound like it. Well, whatever. I imagine you don't want to talk about it. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I don't get it. You don't understand, eh? Looks like things got to be a bit too much for you, Tokyo. I could tell when I saw her. I'm seriously so confused. I don't think I've ever had a problem like this before.
Yeah, when he actually starts to fall in love with us, he's going to be very fucking confused at what's happening. I returned to my dorm after school, but I couldn't remember what happened in my afternoon classes. I couldn't get Tokyo out of my mind. Actually, it was more like I couldn't stop thinking about what I said and being embarrassed about it. Looking back on the situation calmly, I recognized that I took my anger out on Tokyo. I had this one-sided hope and then felt betrayed, but that was just in my head. I said such horrible things to him. Tokyo didn't do anything wrong. Whatever his motive, he was kind to me. When I considered all that, it struck me just how alone I was. I think I felt happy as I did when Tokyo helped me because I was so lonely. It really lifted my spirits when he talked to me about the sky. He told me not to tell anyone else, and it felt like our little secret. I thought it was a sign we'd grown closer, but it turned out I was mistaken, and that was heartbreaking to me. From what he explained today, he was just doing it so the blooms wouldn't be affected. And then I misunderstood him and accused him of being cold-hearted. He's probably disgusted with me. It would be awkward to face both Tokyo and Kaori at this rate. I tried to think of a way to resolve this, but it wasn't that simple. You know, I should message Uncle Yashima to get a fresh perspective. I turned to my computer and pulled up my email. Uncle Yashima is someone with whom I can always share my feelings and be vulnerable. It's partly because he's been giving me advice for a long time, though I can't see his face over email. I felt thankful for that fact right now and began composing the message. Dear Uncle Yashima, I'm sorry to be writing you with more issues, but I don't think I can solve the problem myself, so I hope to get your advice. You told me previously to look for someone I could be close to, but I don't think I can do that anymore. I avoided talking about the blooms and rather explained how I made assumptions and ended up blaming someone else. He probably won't respond today, but I hope he does before I go to school tomorrow. I held on to that hope as I hit send, then turned in for the night. The next morning, I woke up and checked my computer first thing. I guess he hasn't replied yet, but it wouldn't be good to go to school while I'm feeling like this. Maybe I should wait a little longer. It's totally skip school. It still hasn't come. I waited until the very last minute I could, but never got a reply. I can't skip school without a good reason. I should just head out. Thinking about what would happen if I saw Tokyo made me feel glum, but I'd be late if I wasted any more time. I managed to motivate myself somehow and left my room. Why didn't you go to school? Because I was feeling really sad and depressed about my friend dying. And it just hit me really hard today. I think that's valid. I haven't seen Tokyo yet, so maybe I'll be able to avoid him for the rest of the day. He's going to be right outside your fucking classroom, isn't he? Once morning class is finished and lunch was over, the chances of us meeting would basically be nil since we had different schedules. Afternoon classes are starting. I need to focus on studying right now. My relief didn't last long, however, as a loud siren began echoing throughout the academy. Well, is that the alarm? What's going on? Those monsters must have showed up again. Everyone remain calm. We have to stay put until we receive further orders, just like we practiced. Class erupted into chaos, but I couldn't wait for everyone to calm down. Thank goodness. I don't think anyone noticed me. I made it to the hallway without being seen and sprinted toward the command center. Immediately after I began running, I heard another set of footsteps behind me. Don't tell me... I nervously turned around, and sure enough, there was Tokio. So much for avoiding him. Actually, I should have known this would happen. Unless we'd moved classrooms for our electives, we need to go in the same direction to the command center. It didn't take long for Tokio to catch up.
I'm going ahead.
Sure. He spoke to me abruptly, then ran off. I guess it's better than being ignored, but I was wondering if I'd be able to fight in this state. Part of me was still worrying about that as I rushed into the command center.
Did you predict this?
Yes, but only just before. Kaori and Sena were talking when I arrived. The only image I received was of the Vectors entering the research district. Everyone evacuated thanks to the alarm, so I did not see anyone getting attacked. There are not many Vectors, less than 10.
That's all we need to know.
I'm sure you're tired from using foresight. You go get some rest while we take on the Vectors. Haruka and Mocha entered after me and went over to Sena, but I felt like I couldn't approach them. I should at least say hi to Sena, but being near Kaori would be awkward. What's wrong? You don't look so good. Are you still scared? The commander must have noticed something was wrong. Hearing him, Kaori also addressed me. And yet it doesn't.
You're gonna carry out the mission properly, right?
Of course I will. Although I gave her a reply, I still couldn't look Kaori in the eyes.
And what about you, Kaori? I'll be just fine.
Haruka was addressing Kaori, but if I thought about it, this tied back to when I ran into Ayamu the other day. Ayamu went into Tokio's room afterward, so he might know what happened between us. It's entirely possible Tokio talked to him about me.
Hey, Kaori.
Haruka tried to say something, but Kaori ignored her and left the command center. Haruka just heaved a big sigh and left to chase after Kaori. What was all that about? Did something happen? Sorry, I'll make sure it doesn't affect our mission. That's all I said to them as I left the command center. We went to the location Sena predicted and lay in wait. Sure enough, the Vectors appeared, and there were fewer than 10. Kaori and Haruka went out first, then Mocha and Sena followed after preparing for battle. I thought Sena was staying behind. Or maybe they said stay back. Like,
And there aren't many today.
yeah, definitely less than we usually face. We better make sure they don't go into the other districts. Right. Seriously, though, what happened? You two are acting all weird. It's nothing. Let's just focus on the mission. I dodged Mocha's question. Then Sena called out, giving us the heads up. There they come. There might not be that many, but I have to stay on my toes. I knew I wasn't my usual self, so I put all my energy into staying focused.
I'll take the two in the front. Kaori, you get that one. Got it.
Haruka and Kaori split off in separate directions, so I decided to follow Haruka and back her up. Haruka, I'll draw them into the corner and then you can attack them at once.
Sure, we'll go with that plan.
Haruka briefly looked like she was going to say something more, but then just quickly turned back to the Vectors.
You go in first. I'm right behind you.
All right. Haruka and I worked together seamlessly and defeated the two Vectors. I'm glad that went well, but... I looked over at the other team and saw Mocha and Kaori fighting two different Vectors with Sena on backup. Who should I help?
It looks like they're having a hard time. Let's go.
Seems like Haruka had the same thought. I followed after her. She ran off. She's going to be like, I'm going to go help fucking Mocha, so force me to help Kaori. Things will go smoother if Haruka teams up with Kaori. I'll go assist Mocha for now.
Sena!
A Vector charged after Sena before Haruka could reach Kaori, so Haruka went to back her up. What should I do now? Now Kaori is in danger too! I caught sight of a Vector coming in from the side while Kaori was still preoccupied with the one she'd been fighting.
Ha!
I immediately turned toward the new Vector and attacked, falling in line with Kaori. I'll back you up!
I'm fine. Go up, Mocha.
Huh? County's sharp rebuff caused me to momentarily freeze up. But the vectors won't wait. I have to do something right away. Cast Augment for support or focus on the vectors? Probably focus on the vectors, I think. Well, casting Augment for support is helpful, too. I don't know. They're both good. Okay, it's Augment. I was like... And I'll cast Augment before I go. County didn't refuse, so I touched her shoulder. I think that should do it. I quickly cast Augment before she could say anything else. Then I turned to aid Mocha. She was like pushing us away, and we're like, well, here you go, support. And then instead of being like, fine, fuck you then. We like still helped, and she was a little shocked by that, I bet. I mean, they showed her shocked Pikachu face, so. After that, I continued to fight and keep my distance from Kaori. Haruka, that's the last one. Take that! After Haruka took down the last vector, Kaori's comm rang.
Yes, understood. That was the commander. Asina predicted no vectors enter the research district, so we've been ordered to return.
And thank goodness, we managed to keep everyone safe. We sure did. Relief spread over the group after the commander's call, but I couldn't celebrate just yet. We completed the mission safely, and I didn't make any mistakes, but my relationship with Kaori is still... Things were still awkward between us, to say the least. I wasn't sure we'd ever be able to return to normal. Great work, everyone. The commander congratulated us as usual when we returned to the command center. Should I go back to school if he dismisses us right away? I think I can make my last class. The commander turned to me as I puzzled through my jumbled thoughts. Everyone else is dismissed for today. You, however, are staying behind for a bit. Just me? Yep. And do you know why? He must have been keeping tabs on me. I guess it was obvious. He immediately knew that I was acting strange when we were heading out for the mission. I resigned myself to my fate and stayed. Once everyone filed out of the room, the commander started speaking again. Am I telling me what happened between you and Kaori? I suppose staying silent won't help. I should tell him everything. I told him that I knew Kaori and Tokio were the same person. Then he explained the misunderstanding and how I yelled at Tokio. I called him cold-hearted, even though he didn't do anything wrong. Ah, I see. Well, from my view, this is all his fault. Yeah, I know it was my... Wait, what? Did I mishear him? Commander, did you say it's Tokio's fault? I sure did. His words were so unexpected that I felt I needed to explain the situation again. And no, it really isn't. As he said, he thought about my feelings and tried to come up with the best method. And yet I said such terrible things to him. But you said them because of what Tokio did. The commander interjected while I was trying to explain. Tokio may think it was the best method, but the result was that he hurt you. And that means the way he did things wasn't ideal. I think you were right in feeling like a test subject. Really? I still didn't fully agree, but the commander continued on. Tokio isn't great with these things. He forgets that he's dealing with people and just tries to plow forward in the most logical way. And that's why I made him the leader of the Blooms, so he could learn more about people's emotions. I actually thought he'd been doing well until now. I mean, yes, as Kaori, he's doing great. But also, if you think about it, like, it's a short-term thing, so it's almost like, I'm making an introvert be an extrovert, and I thought they were doing it. Yeah, but then when they go back home, they want to, like, leave me the fuck alone, don't talk to me. And then nobody gets it. So it's kind of like, exactly, that's a perfect scenario. Like, but after hearing what happened, it's clear he still needs to improve. I asked him to support you because you were a girl, who was hurt. Tokio said he thought things through, but if you ask me, he didn't think enough. I believe your honest feelings would be a good influence on him, but I suppose things don't always go according to plan. The commander's criticism was so cutting, I began to feel sorry for Tokio. Maybe, but I still said some mean things to Tokio, so I really think I should apologize to him. Reflecting on your actions is a good thing, but I think you're being a bit too hard on yourself. I think your inherent honesty and cheerfulness are strengths of yours, but I guess things can't be helped in this situation. The commander then trailed off as if he were deep in thought. Finally, he smiled. All right, let me sort things out. You sit back and let Papa Bear take care of it. Papa Bear? I'm glad she got onto that because my brain was doing the same thing. Excuse me, sir? His overbearing smile was less than reassuring, but there was nothing I could say at the moment. Nothing else I could say at the moment. You were like, okay? Let Daddy take care of it. Sir, please don't.
Why'd you ask for me instead of Kaori?
Oh, the next morning when we arrived, I was like, why is this doesn't have the black? He's just I'm here too. Okay. The next morning when we arrived at the academy, Mr. Kunomori asked for Tokio and I, but not in his role as our commander. I wonder what he's going to talk to us about. He said he'd take care of it, but remembering our conversation yesterday, I began to worry about what he might do. Mr. Kunomori remained unruffled in the face of Tokio's obvious irritation and tried to settle him down. Now, just calm down. We're talking about you, Tokio, not Kaori.
If it's all about the blooms, then I don't get why you called us here.
Of course it's about the blooms, but I don't think you'll get the message unless you hear it as Tokio.
What are you trying to say? Can you just get to the point? Class is gonna start soon.
Tokio didn't even try to hide his annoyance, but Mr. Kunomori just responded with equanimity. She told me what happened. If we look at things fairly, you're the one at fault, Tokio.
Why?
Tokio responded immediately, and Mr. Kunomori's eyes opened wide in exaggerated surprise. What do you mean, why? Men have to be nice to women, that's why. First of all, men should be nice to women instead of the douchebags that they usually are in society, in general. In general, you know what I mean? But there's also this, you have to be nice because women are delicate. They can't handle it if you tell them the truth. You have to whoa, don't baby me. But at the same time, don't be a douchebag either. It's middle ground. Treat me like a normal human being. You need to be nice to people, Tokio. There's something valid and wrong about this at the same time. Jeez, what should I do? All I could do was stand dumbfounded. I'd expected him to give a more serious reason. An awkward silence filled the room, making me wish I was anywhere else. But I also think the professor, even though he's like, don't fall in love, guys. And then we had that ending in Kamui's route, right? Where the bad ending, where we went to the commander and we're like, I will never fall in love. I won't fall in love with him, whatever, so that he wouldn't lose his abilities. And the commander's just like, okay. And he just pats us on the shoulder and walks away. And it's almost like, and I don't know. I just got the vibe he was disappointed, even though he's like, don't fall in love, guys. Remember, no falling in love. Okay, cool. Even though he tells us that, I feel like he wants us to. You know what I mean? And I felt that ending was him being like, I was really hoping you would, so that these poor suckers don't have to be in this situation. Because I don't think, even though he's doing his job, I don't think he likes that these boys are being abused by the system. You know what I mean? I don't think he likes it at all. So oh, golly gee darn it, one of them fell in love and lost their abilities. Shucksy doodles. I tried to stop it. You know what I mean? And for all intents and purposes, he did try to stop it, It'll look like he did, but he was always kind of undermining himself too, although, you know what I mean? And he's really happy about it. So I kind of almost get that same vibe here where he's like, Tokio, you have to be nice to girls so you can fall in love with her, so you can be free of this bullshit. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, he's just we need you guys to be friends, so you should be nice to girls. And just kind of hoping that it leads to something so that if anybody, the higher-ups were to come after him, he's like, I just was telling them to work out their problems so that the Bloom's missions, it was all about the missions. That's all I cared about. And then it's going to be well, yeah, okay. Even though he's but they fell in love and that's exactly what I wanted. You know what I mean? Because he's shady, but I feel in a good way. Yeah, some of the things he does, you're it doesn't benefit us, but he kind of has to do those things. But underlying, I think he's really just secretly doing things and steering things so that we benefit without higher ups knowing or them being able to call him out on anything. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw that in Kamui's route a lot with the whole we went to rescue him and no one was around, oddly. You're yeah, Wonder who orchestrated that. You know what I mean? So I think right now he's like, Tokio, talk to girls. Maybe actually go out and fall in love so that you lose your abilities. Because if you think about it, out of everyone, like, Tokio and Ayumu have been dealing with this since they were children, and they're the most fucked up by this. Like, Kamui and Mihaya got their powers a little bit later, you know, so I feel like the commander would definitely be like, yeah, no, Tokio, you deserve to be a little bit free from this. And, like, researching is fine, but, like, dude, your whole life is this, like, I need you to branch out, son. Like, I think he'd be the most concerned about him, you know? Anyway. An awkward silence filled the room, making me wish I was anywhere else. Tokio's obviously sick of this whole thing and just wants to get it over with.
If that's all, then I'm leaving.
Tokio's words were laced with ice. He began to get up to leave. Hold on, I haven't finished yet. Mr. Kuromori continued speaking in his usual lighthearted manner. Good job, Tim and Ronald. Sometimes they forget the word the, but this time they put usual in there twice for us, so that's making up for when they miss a word. To be fair, I don't think we've had too many. I mean, we've had some. I feel like there's been at least 2 in this route, but like most of them, I don't think we've had too many like weird typos, and I actually think it's been pretty good consistency-wise. Some other games, they fucked up and our name is the original character's name and whatever. They've yet to do that here. They've always called me Spacey, so that input's working. And they've missed a word here and there, but for the most part, it hasn't been, like, that bad. I think it's only just popping in my head because I'm like, wow, this has been, like, 2 very succinctly back-to-back within the last 2 parts. You know what I mean? And I don't remember if the other one was the last part or if it was the earlier part of this before the bird pooped on me and I got mad at him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the first half of this part or last part, because it's only the second part. But, and then I'm like, well, that's a lot in the last 2 hours. 2 in the last 2 hours, but I don't remember there even being a ton before, so, you know, and so, to be fair, when it's every once in a while, like, oh, huh, and it's once every so many hours, it doesn't really faze me, but when you're like, well, this is like the second one I remember seeing recently, that strikes you more. But I think for the most part, we've done pretty good without Tim and Ronald getting their fingers in this, so I guess they only worked on some of the rounds. I just like blaming them. Anyway, Mr. Kuromori continued speaking in his usual lighthearted manner, though his voice held a stern edge this time. It's as I've always told you. You need to try and understand people's feelings more. Have you reflected on what you did this time?
I tried to imagine what would be best. It was always my intention to consider the other person's feelings.
Sure, but you still hurt someone, even with the best intentions. That's a failure in my book. And you need to take a hard look at yourself. I meekly waited for Mr. Kuromori's next words as the topic turned to me. I implied this yesterday, but you've lost yourself a bit. Lost some of those qualities that make you, you. Right. So I got a suggestion that should help both of you change for the better. He's like, I want you to spend time together so you fall in love, because I'm trying to help you fuckers.
Why do I have a bad feeling about this?
Because, you know, again, he tried to stop when the very beginning, in the common route where they're all going to the research district to get poked and party, he's like, oh, not the new girl. Just leave her out of it for a little, just pace her in it. Because he's trying to protect us. Because he knows some shit. But he also, if the professor is Uncle Yashima, they know each other and they do still communicate. So, like, you know. I do too. Anyway, did I read that? Like,
I have a bad feeling about this.
Anyway, I do too. I didn't have the courage to agree with Tokio out loud, but seeing Mr. Kuromori smile like that made me feel uneasy. Mr. Kuromori's suggestion was for us to take on missions together at another colony called Iota. There had been reports of Vector sightings near Iota recently. They even suffered an attack while we'd been busy defending Theta. Interesting, okay.
An attack? Were people hurt?
And now everyone managed to get to safety, but the supplies en route to the colony all got ruined.
I see. It's bad enough they got attacked, but without supplies it becomes a question of life or death.
Does it? I'd only ever learned about the other colonies in class, so I couldn't quite grasp the seriousness of it. I asked Tokio, and he explained the situation matter-of-factly.
Theta sends other colonies food, energy, and many other supplies. They absolutely depend on them. That's why even if one shipment goes missing, the situation turns dire very quick for those living there.
Which we saw a little bit in Yukonami's kind of the best ending where we were kind of protecting the shipments. So I suppose if you did all of the Bloom's routes first, you'd hear about this, and then doing Yukonami's, that part makes sense. But, like, I don't think it's anything where when it happened in Yukonami's, you're like, wait, what, huh? You're like, oh, yeah, okay, logically that makes sense that they share supplies back and forth because you can't be totally self-sufficient. Like, you got the farming goods, but then they're doing something over here, and then you're trading with each other and stuff like that. So, like, little villages or cities or settlements would have been back in ye olde days. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? Hell, we do shit like that now in the global economy that we have. And, like, the world's not, well, it is falling apart, but it's not completely in shambles like it is here, you know? So, I mean, you still do that, you know? So, makes sense. And it's not, it didn't I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but it came out of nowhere. Like, they had never talked about it before, but when it popped up, it wasn't like, wait, what? You were like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, so. Dire, meaning that the people won't be able to survive? Like, they'll get sick or run out of food?
They have some supplies saved, so it wouldn't be immediate. But the longer they go without a new delivery, the more dangerous it'll become.
Anyways, the higher-ups have requested we dispatch the Blooms. Your mission will be defend the supply transport and eliminate any vectors that appear along the way. After that, you'll be stationed temporarily at Iota to provide security both inside and outside the colony. So you want Tokio and I to do all that?
This is really a two-person mission.
Right as I thought that the mission sounded difficult, Tokio questioned Mr. Kunomori with some hostility.
I won't say we can't do it, but it'd be an awful lot compared to the other missions.
It's true the mission really requires all members. I definitely considered it when I received the request. But we can't ignore Theta either. We're the Vector's prime target. So I compromised and decided to split the team up. Then wouldn't it be better for for Haruka to go since she works better with Tokio? Or you could send Mocha, Sana, and me. The awkwardness between Tokio and I spurred me to suggest that, but Mr. Kunomori shut it down. He's like, no, I want you guys to get along. I hope you haven't forgotten that this is also a kind of punishment for you two. Both of you are disrupting the Bloom's missions. I'm putting you in charge of in a challenging situation so you'll change your mindsets and hopefully fall in love, goddammit. I swear to God, I feel like right here he's like, I'm doing this and this is exactly the reason he's giving us is what he's going to go to the higher ups with. I'm going to put them out there because right now they're not getting along and I need them to get along and like, what the fuck? We can't have this kind of shit. We can't have these girl fights. People need to get along so we can work as a team. So I'm punishing them. They're going to do it. And then deep down inside, he's like, and then maybe they'll spend some more time together. And Tokio will learn that people have emotions and stop being a fucking robot. But then also maybe they'll fall in love. I feel like there's some underlying, I don't know, maybe I'm just reading into it because it's an Otome game and the whole point is to fall in love with their boyfriend. And I'm just thinking Mr. Kunomori's over there being like, yeah, I'm the person who wrote the scenarios and I'm pushing it out, you know? Well, you're not in a position to give suggestions or refuse.
This is the worst.
Tokio heaved a sigh while Mr. Kunomori tried to get him to look on the bright side. He rarely left Theta, let alone visited another colony. He wouldn't even know the location without approval from the higher-ups.
Well, it's true.
Tokio sounds more interested now. Tokio's tone had shifted, and when I looked over at him, I saw his eyes were glittering with excitement. It is also very weird that we learned, and I wonder if they're going to bring that up for any fucking reason, if there's any reason behind it aside from plot devices like this, where it's just a simple throwaway thing. But, like, Mihaya's family wanted to go investigate, and they had marked off in their books other colony locations, and it was like, we know there's other colonies, but we don't know where they are. And even Mr. Kunomori just said that. He's like, you'll find out. You wouldn't know where this was without the higher-ups telling you. And it's like, it's a little fucking weird that we don't know where they are. I mean, listen, I get it. You could give a map to people and be like, where's this country? Or where's the... And people know where to fucking find it on a map. But that's just... Like, one, there's too many, like, okay, fine, geography's not your strong suit. But it's not like you don't have a map, and if someone was, like, talking about China, you'd be like, wait. You could fucking find it on a map if you didn't know where it was. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? But it's very weird that they talk about another colony, and you're like, I would have no idea where to find it on a map. You would have no idea because it's secret information. That's kind of fucked up. Like, It's not like, well, I've heard of Canada, but I have no idea I wouldn't even know how to get there if they let me outside. Because it's like, it's just a mysterious name. Like, you know where fucking Canada is. You can see, like, you can find it. You can use Google to find, like, but like, this is secret information. Why? You know? That's baffling. Like, is there a point to that? Or is it just like they just don't know whatever and like, they just don't explain why? Because it seems really odd. It's not like we could go out. So it's not like if we knew where they were, we could just like run away to another colony. But do you think it's because like all the other throwaways that they've had in some of the other routes? Well, like in Hugo's, it was really basically saying that like, oh, Theta's got its own like research subjects. They're doing human experimentation. Do you think we're all just the research subjects somewhere deep down? And that's why we don't know where other colonies are? And it's like, well, yeah, because like when we run out of research like we don't want them to know because then they could just realize that and then they could escape. But there's nowhere for them to go because even if they found out they were research subjects, what are they going to do? Put on a spacesuit and go, where? Run around in the wilderness? It's nowhere to go. They don't have maps. They don't know where other colonies are. You know what I mean? It's the only thing that seems to make sense on why they're keeping us this stupid. You know? It's not like, oh, yeah, well, there's this other colony, but it's like 300 miles away and you have to walk. And like, by the time you die before you could get there. But obviously not, because there's people that are wearing the suits that are going from colony to colony with the transport. They're not in vehicles. Well, at least the people it didn't seem like they were, but I'm sure they have vehicles. But you know what I mean? So there's the transport people, they're in the suits, so the suits can obviously last that long. And Mihaya's parents figured out where some of them were. So, like, they're not that far away. But they still don't want us to know where they are? So it's very suspicious. Anyway. Tokio's tone had shifted, and when I looked over at him, I saw his eyes were glittering with excitement.
I can gather soil samples when I'm out there, right?
Sure, as long as it doesn't impact the mission. It was clear Mr. Kuromori was trying to make the mission sound enticing for Tokio. Tokio researches the environment. Of course he'd want to go someplace he hadn't been before. I guess I can't say no. I mean, Mr. Kuromori did tell us that was off the table. Part of me had been waiting for the opportune moment to apologize to Tokio. And we were going to be working together for a while. I was sure I'd get my chance. All right. I'm not 100% sure where we are on time. I think we're a little bit over, or roughly, just because I had to stop and split the parts. But I'm going to wrap this one up here then. I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.